we're a little late. We do want to get out of here quickly so they can do all of the hygiene theatre. So please do try to get these things on time. That's not bad. Also very, very pleased to see almost all of you wearing masks on the way in. That's great. I find it incredibly tedious as well, but I tell you what's even more tedious, and that's going to be a second lockdown. So we want to avoid that if we possibly can. I was in isolation for 2 weeks at the first half of the term, and it was ghastly. I really don't want to go there again. You know, whether COVID happens to me or not, I just don't want to be in a full-on lockdown. And that means that we have to observe all of the hygiene protocols that we've got in place. So thank you all for coming in with your masks on, and please remember that when we leave through the side door, and nobody leaves until they've got their masks on. So, okay, good. Started on a fairly positive note. Thank you all very much indeed. Let's talk about you and UCAS. Right. Remember how we said we were going to get all of these away by half term? Well, with the mocks, that was probably a little unrealistic, but nevertheless, that's not great. We've got 185 applications in the pipe. Some of you haven't opened yours yet. Not many, but some of you haven't. Because I know that's bolstered by quite a few old Stoics. We've got 31 with universities out of 185, the maths of which I'm not going to bore you with, but obviously it's not great. Now, I promised myself I wouldn't rant, and so inevitably I'm not cross, I'm just disappointed. And I'm disappointed for a number of reasons, okay? First of all, we knew this was coming. Not spoiling anything, are we, Henry? Thank you. We knew this was coming, all right? And it was all avoidable. And how do I know it was avoidable? Because we started this flipping process 4 months ago. We started this process with this famous video from the 10th of June. Went on for about an hour and a half. I know because I was there. Were you there? Some of you were, but others weren't. And as a result of that, you're behind the curve. We're going into a situation now where so much is up in the air, okay? And I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know how this is going to fall out. I don't know what's going to happen in the exams. I don't know what's going to happen with the universities on results day. And never trust anyone who says, trust me. They're either lying or selling you something. So what do we know? Let's focus on what we do know. And what we know is this. We're coming into a hostile environment. And how do I know that? Well, let me explain it to you. Last year, we had this ridiculous 2-phase release system. We started off with the government grades. Now, after the first government grades, things weren't looking great. In fact, I was worried about my job. Because at that point, we only had 48 kids placed with their first choice. That's 48 out of 152. We have never had figures like that, ever. Okay? Now the critical thing there, and there are a number of critical things there, is that we have the 35 who hit their target grades, and then we had another 13 who missed their target grades, but were accepted. Which left 73 essentially on the stump. Now, what does that mean? And why does that matter to you? Any suggestions? Why did they stop at 13? Any ideas at all? Come on. Yeah.
Last performance wasn't great.
Nope. Well, the question, nearly, okay, why was it 14? So why was it 13 who missed but were accepted and not 14? Yeah. No? good ideas. Sorry? So in other words, all of the courses were full. That's why. You replicate this across the entire country, and what you're finding is that all of the places, certainly at the top end of the scale, the Exeter, the Newcastle, the Edinburgh, the Durham, Oxbridge we don't worry about because they're utterly fixed by the number of beds in the first year. But Durham, Exeter, Newcastle, and Edinburgh, they were all full. And then something very strange happened. We had the centre assessed grades come in. And what do you know? Suddenly, 59 of our kids had hit their target grades, and a further 47 missed but were accepted. We went from 48 to 106. What's the critical question there? Critical question is, how the hell did I keep my job? But apart from that, the second most important question is, where did those 58 places come from? And where do you think they came from? How did they magic 58 places just for Stowe out of thin air? Well, the short answer, guys, is that they came from you. Okay? They came from places that were allocated to you. Either by bumping kids into deferred entry. You may have seen that Durham was paying people to take a gap year. Other universities were as well. Or they just created a bulge year. If you look at the number of people that were accepted by Exeter last year, it was bigger than we've ever seen. We don't know the exact numbers because the universities are incredibly cagey about it. They're not releasing this information. But what we do know for absolute certain is that many higher tier universities over-offered. Edinburgh, Durham, Exeter being three key ones, and Newcastle, sorry, four. Edinburgh, Exeter, Durham, and Newcastle. How many of you out there are thinking to apply to one of those four, possibly all four? They over-offered, yeah, I know. They over-offered. And so they're going to be a hostile application environment this year, which is what I was trying to tell you in the last half of term. We don't know by how much, because the universities are being incredibly cagey, not unrealistically. And some students were persuaded to defer entry, so they've got your seat on the bus. Again, we don't know how many of those. All of that means that 2021 is a bulge year, okay? There are many, many more kids in university than we would necessarily have expected, which is bad news for you, which is why I told you to get your applications in early. On the other hand, we don't know how big the bulge is, we don't know how many of the 2021 set, that's you lot, will defer, and we don't know how many overseas students will decide not to apply. So it's not necessarily all bad news. And the other reason why it's not necessarily all bad news is that universities are making offers. Now, I mentioned earlier that 31 had their applications in, all right? Of those 31, we haven't had anything back from Oxford and Cambridge yet, because Oxford and Cambridge, or indeed the medical schools, but look at this. All of these offers are coming in, and look who's offering. Bristol, Exeter, Warwick, York, Durham. These are good universities. And so they are making offers. But these offers are already out there, and they all belong to people who are sitting there now, because they got their UCAS forms in. Most of them Oxford, Cambridge medics, but not all of them. Okay? Not all of them. So if you're sitting there with one of those in your pocket already, well done. Big up you. The rest of you are behind the curtain. You now have to go because these offers are being made and they're earlier than ever before. The good news is they're normal. Let's just go back. These are not egregiously tough offers. And that's very important as well. And I'll explain why in a minute. The offers are being made. They're being made earlier than ever before, and they are normal. This is all good news. But if you get an offer for AAB from Exeter or what's Warwick there? AABB, not Warwick. AAB at York, whatever it is. If you get one of those hits this time, you're going to have to hit it. A near miss this year is not going to be good enough. So if you think, well, it's okay, I've got AAB, if I get ABB, I'm probably going to be okay. That's not going to happen this year because of all of the things I mentioned earlier. So if these offers are coming in, you've got to hit them. So, what does all of that mean? It means that you're in control, okay? You're in charge of your UCAS form and it's all out there for you to resolve. The first thing you've got to do, if you haven't already, is complete your form. And I do find that staggering since we started on the 10th of June, but no, I'm not cross, just disappointed. When you're picking that form, okay, so when you're picking your universities, you've got to be reasonable. This is not a buyer's market anymore. There are many, many more students who are chasing far, far fewer places. Okay? So that means that a near miss is probably not going to work for you this year. So you have to pick reasonable choices, and you have to pick an insurance. Better yet, you have to pick a range of universities would be my suggestion. Maybe 3, 2. Okay? Because however bad or however hostile the application environment is, clearing is going to be an awful lot worse. You do not want to be in clearing this year. It's going to be a really hostile environment. So when you're picking your choices, don't think, oh well, last year somebody got into Exeter with ABB or BBB. That's not going to happen this year. And so when you're coming to me for all of your enabling grades, I'm going to say, well, we can do that, but if you don't get the grade, you're not going there. And so that is a waste of pixels on your form. Do it. But if we give you enabling grades of AB and you get ABB, they're probably not going to accept you. And so, when it comes to the time, you have to pick reasonably. You don't have to make your final selection until May, but when you do, think about the grades you're going to get. Don't assume that a near miss is going to get you in there. If we make enabling grades to you, and you get a range of offers back from your range of universities, when those offers are coming in, and when it comes to the crunch time, you've got to be brutally honest with yourself. What am I going to get here? And hopefully we'll know, because you'll have been working hard across the year. And you'll know in which direction you're going. And so you'll know whether you're going AAB or BBB or BBC. Because you don't want to be in clearing this year. You really don't. So, complete your form. Pick a range of universities. Nag your tutor nicely to get this away as quickly as possible. Most of them are here, so they can all attest to what I've said. Okay? Get on your tutor's case. Make sure this gets out the door. And then work hard. It's all in your hands. You have the opportunity to shape your end here. So work all the way hard. And when it comes to the choice, when it comes to that choice time, be honest with yourself. Are you heading towards straight A's? Are you heading towards ABB? Are you heading towards something else? Because you don't want to be in clearing this year. And the near miss probably isn't going to get it for you. And that's about it. Now, I really hope I haven't freaked anybody out, but that is an honest situation of where you are. Is it ideal? No. It's very, very far from ideal. But at least you know where you stand. And you know perfectly well that if you work hard and if you work consistently across this year, then cometh the hour, you're going to know where you stand, you're going to know what the likely outcome is in the grades, and you'll be able to make a reasonable, a prudent, and a very, very honest choice. I hope that makes sense. Those of you who've got your applications in the pipe already, well done. The rest of you, let's get them out there as quickly as possible. And let's get you out of here as quickly as possible as well. Masks on, please. And remember to exit through the side doors.